Okay, so the first thing that we want to look at is when, after you've opened Excel, you will see something that looks like this. And I've got it kind of lifted off my desk here, so I apologize if it's a bit shaky. The top bar at the very top, we call that the ribbon. I'm going to put it down so I can point to it. So this bar over here is the ribbon. It is exactly the same as what we had in Microsoft Word as well as in Microsoft PowerPoint. The functions and some of the tabs have changed, but the idea of having a ribbon at the top of your page is exactly the same. So if you look closely, you can see, I'm going to pull it up a little bit. All the buttons are over there. There's a file tab and all the tabs across the top. One thing to notice is the active cell. Right now the active cell is A1, and that is because all the columns are labeled A, B, C, D, etc. and all the rows are labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So we always start with the columns. That cell, so that's the name of the highlighted square. Again, I'm just going to point to it, the highlighted square right there. That cell is A1. And if you look closely, you will see that that also comes out over here. It says A1. You might not be able to see it well on this page, but on your computer screen, you should see that just perfectly fine. So that is called the reference cell or the active cell. That is a cell that is now active. We know it's active because it has a darker outline around that cell. Right beside there, you also see something called the formula bar. The formula bar is where the formula is written that has to do with that cell. You'll understand more about that as we go along. The title bar across the top, that's the name of your workbook. So every time you start a new Excel page, it's called a workbook. And this right now, the default setting is book 1. And you can relabel that or retitle it. If you do a save as, that will change as well. On the bottom, you see row headings, 1 to whatever. A sheet tab at the very bottom there, that is the name of this sheet, which shows you that you can have multiple sheets in one workbook. So the name of the entire file is called a workbook, and the sheets are separate sheets as you see in front of you. This is one sheet. You can add new sheet button by pushing that little plus sign at the very bottom. You'll see the status bar as well. The status bar is the same as it was in Word. It just gives you some idea of what's happening with your document. You can look through the different areas of it. So that is what an Excel page looks like when you first begin and open up Excel. So how do you open Excel? Well, you'll scroll down to the bottom of your screen, you'll find your home button, and then you will go to Microsoft Office, and then you should find the Excel tab in it. The other way of doing it is just right over in here. You'll see if you have a home screen that looks like this, you can just push on the Excel icon and that will also start. Excel functions exactly the same way that Word does and that PowerPoint does. And that's also the beautiful thing about us having learned Word and PowerPoint. A lot of this is going to be familiar to you. If you want to open a new Excel document, you'll see the tabs across the top here. Info, New, Open. This is a recently opened one. You can choose where you want to open it from. These are recently opened Excel files that will come up. It's exactly the same as you had done with Word. As in Word, you have a chance to set your information in the Info tab. You will find that again in the File. So when you push your File tab, the same window opens up. And then if you navigate to the Info tab, what the Info does is you can change all the properties. So in this area, you can add your own name. That means that when you save this new workbook, that it will be recorded as you being the author of it. And this is where you also will choose if you want to make a new workbook. So you create a new workbook, again, click on the File tab, click New, and then it gives you a suggestion of a certain type of workbook. You can choose some templates, or the default is just a blank workbook as you see number 3 here in front of you. With Excel, as with Word, it might be a time where you're working with multiple workbooks. So you're entering information from one workbook into another workbook. And you want to switch between open workbooks, or you want to show more than one workbook. So one way to switch between open workbooks is to go to the ribbon and click on the View tab, and you will see that right here. And then you can click on the switch window and you can choose the name of the workbook. Some will open up and you can choose the name of the workbook that you would also like to display, as well as the one that is currently open. The way that you show more than one workbook is you click on the View tab, and you'll find the View tab up in the very top in the navigation bar over here. You click on Arrange All, and what this does is it allows you to arrange all the workbooks you have. You can arrange them in tiled, horizontal, vertical, which means they'll show up in your screen like this if it's vertical, or like this if it's horizontal, and then tiled usually comes from the top corner and shows up like that. And you'll have all the different workbooks available to look at. Then you can click on each workbook, and as you click on it, it will become active. Remember in Word how sometimes we have two Word documents open on our screen at the same time? Do the exact same thing with the workbooks in Excel. You can have two open side by side. Excel actually has a neat little thing that allows you to do this. It allows you to move them side by side, and that was in the view that we just discussed in the previous page. The same type of rules apply in Excel as they did in Word. You have your maximum, your minimum, and your close button all on the top over here. So maximum, minimum, and close button all across the top here. Again, this is your title bar that has the heading of your workbook in it. Zooming in and out of a workbook is also something can be very effective. You can find that in the View tab. Again, it's the third one in, very top over here. View tab again in the navigation bar. Click on the View tab and click on Zoom, and you will see Zoom over here, and you can choose a certain type of zoom. Another way of navigating through Zoom is the Zoom bar, and you'll see it over here. You can just move your Zoom slider back and forth depending what percentage you want. That Zoom bar, if this was your open window, that Zoom bar would be on the very bottom over here. And exactly same as Word, we find in the same spot. We can zoom in, zoom out, and PowerPoint had the same feature listed in it as well in the same spot. As with Word and PowerPoint, you again have the choice of saving a workbook or save as for a workbook. It's two features you will see in the same place. They're in the File tab, so you click on File tab, and then you can click Save or Save As. If you save as, you need to pick the spot where you're saving your file to. And then you can always save it with a new name when you click Save As. Again, the exact same thing as you did with PowerPoint and as you did with Word. There will be times that you're frustrated with Excel. So Excel, just as in Word and in PowerPoint, has a really cool little Excel help feature. A couple of different ways that you can actually look for that. The first way is the little question mark that you find in the top bar there. It's the help button. Another way is to right-click any of the Excel objects, and then you will see a shortcut menu of commands. So if you right-click the object, it gives you right away, opens a drop-down box, and it gives you a shortcut of what that is. So let's say there's something that you're confused about on the ribbon here. If you right-click it, you'll get a shortcut menu of commands. You can click on a command, and then it will open a drop-down box and tell you exactly what that is. If that is not enough and you still can't figure it out, you can always find Excel help on the web. You can click on the Microsoft Office Excel help button, and then type in the type of things that the search that you're trying to do, or you can also just Google it, open in your browser, or Google it in your search engine and find some answers that way. So that is the beginning introductory video just to show you how Excel works. So what we're going to do next is open an Excel workbook, and I would like to see if you can do that. Once you have the Excel workbook open, then we will continue with our next set of instructions. Thank you.